Now in today's video, we're taking a look at the ComMarker Omni 1 10-watt UV laser. And this is one of the most flexible lasers on the market when it comes to the materials that it can engrave. This laser is a 10-watt laser, and just recently we had reviewed the 5-watt version. This version is more powerful. It's going to give you faster engraving. It's going to give you the ability to engrave not just on metal, wood, glass, plastic, and fabric, but it expands your capabilities of engraving virtually on any material that's available for personalization. It's a powerful laser, and given that power source, the 10-watt power source, it's going to give you the ability to engrave more items at the same time, unlike anything that you've seen from the 5-watt version. So in today's video, we're going to take a look at the specs, we're going to take a look at the features, we're going to see it in action, I'm going to show you all the materials that I've engraved, and I'm going to give you all of the settings, all my settings that I use in these engravings. So if you're looking to get the 10-watt UV laser and you want to be able to get right out of the gate, start using it, make sure you save my video because this video has every setting for all the materials that I've tested. Let's get right to it. Now, the ComMarker Omni 1 10-watt and 5-watt lasers share many attributes or features that are very similar to each other, as you can see here. The first standout feature that I just wanted to highlight is the dot size. Both of these lasers have a very, very small dot size. And the way you look at the dot size is the smaller the dot, the higher the detail, higher the fidelity, the crisper the image is going to be. And when you see this dot size of 0.0019, you may be asking yourself, well, how does that compare to other lasers? Well, here's the comparison. If you think about a CO2 laser is going to have a 1 millimeter dot size. Remember, this is 0.0019. If you think about a fiber laser, depending on the type, you could go anywhere from 0.05 all the way up to 0.1, depending again on the type of laser that you're talking about. This one is super fine, 0.019. So this is going to give you crisper details, more detail, finer details. It's going to be like high definition when it comes to engraving. In addition to that, you also have that higher watt laser source. So it's a 10-watt laser. And the benefit of having a 10-watt laser is that you can actually engrave in a larger area. So you could use larger lenses. So with a 5-watt, you're limited to either a 70 or 150 millimeter lens, and that defines your engravable area. So if you think about 150 millimeter lens is going to engrave about this much. That's it. But there's a lot that you can engrave in that area. Now, when you think about a laser that can support a 300 millimeter lens, now you're talking about a much larger area. You're going to see my examples. We're talking about going from engraving maybe 3 keychains to now being able to engrave 36 keychains at the same time, because the larger lens gives you a larger area to work with. And that's kind of mind-blowing. Now, in addition to having the ability to support a larger lens on the 10-watt version, you have a water-cooled system, which on the 5-watt version is pretty much air. And that's because the higher power laser needs to be cooled, and the only way you can cool it is with water versus air on the lower part version. Now, this laser, one of the benefits of having a UV laser is that the UV lasers are zero burn lasers. They don't burn like other lasers do. You're going to find less charring, you'll find less marking, you'll find less cleanup. And then the other thing that you'll find is that the speed of these lasers are high, very high. Talking about 10,000 millimeters per second. Now, practical use, I never go that high or that fast. I'm typically on the several thousand, but never that fast. But it's good to know that the system can go up to that speed. I just don't find it practical for the type of engraving that I use. Now, this laser, because it's a UV laser, is going to open up all the different type of materials that are available on the market for you to engrave. Typically what ends up happening is if you're going to be engraving wood, you'd probably get a CO2 laser or a diode laser. If you're going to be engraving metal, you'd get a fiber or a MOPA laser. And then you have this, which sits in between, which goes on both sides. The UV laser will do your metal, it will do your wood, it will do your plastic, and it will even do glass, which is something that you don't find that the others do well unless you spray paint them or put some type of coat. No coating whatsoever, your UV laser is going to be able to handle it. The fact that this has a 10-watt laser also means that it's going to be able to engrave on more curved surfaces of your glass. So what I tend to find is that when you start getting to the corners of your glass, when you're engraving or any other material, the laser loses power. And when it loses power, the area that's engraved are lighter. That's not going to be the case with this laser whatsoever. This laser does have an electric lift, which is going to go up and down. It also has, or it's compatible with LightBurn. And as I mentioned, you're talking about all the materials that you use. You're going to be able to work on wood, plastic, acrylic. You're going to be able to work on also a slate. You'll also be able to mark, I would say steel. So you'll be able to get them to have like a black mark, which a lot of people really like. So this is again going to give you a lot of that flexibility. This system again, standout features, larger lens, water cooler, and then you're also going to be looking at the fact that because it has that larger lens, it tends to engrave faster. So let's take a closer look at this laser. We'll see all of the engravings that we did, and you'll see why I'm so excited about this. And if I had to choose between a 5 and a 10, I'd go 10 every single time. So just think about that. If you can push your budget to get a 10, go with the 10 because that one's going to give you the larger area. It's going to give you more flexibility just because of the power. And you'll see the differences that I'm experiencing when you look at the Engrave area. Now the footprint for this laser is a little bit different in my setup than you're going to find in most areas. And that's due to the fact that I have an extended riser. Now this laser comes with everything that you need in order to start laser engraving. It does come with a ruler, which is critical to finding your focal point, and I'm going to show you how that's done. It comes with a preview shield, and this preview shield is what you would use to be able to see where you're going to engrave before you engrave, and that's because the laser, the UV preview, is not visible to the human eye. This is what makes it visible, and you're going to see that in a couple seconds. Now, I have mine set up a little bit different. You're going to notice that I had some risers here that I have installed, and that's because I'm using the larger lens. I'm using the 300 millimeter lens, and you're going to see why I chose to do that. Typically, your laser is going to come with a lens that's going to be smaller. I'm going to go ahead and bring this lens on camera. I actually 3D printed a little lens holder so that I can store my lenses. And here what we have is a lens that you will have with your laser when you first receive it. You'll notice here where it says 150 by 150. This defines the engravable area that you're working with. And so what I've done is I've switched it with a 300 one because I want the larger engravable area, as that's a little bit more important to me. This would give me a smaller area that you're going to see in a couple seconds. But the cool thing is that with this laser, you can actually go with that larger engrave area. And at any time, you can switch from one laser to one lens to another, and then just put it back in its container, like I'm doing right here. And then what I'll just do is put it aside, and then just store it like this. This is very protective in our case. Now, I also, given the fact that I have my laser on this riser, I'm actually changing the way I do my focus. These two lasers right here, I'm going to put my hand right here. You'll notice that those two dots. These two dots, as you're raising and lowering the laser, when they come together, it gives you your focal point. And what ComMarker does is for every lens that you purchase, they actually give you what the settings are for engraving from a laser height perspective. And I can tell you that this has been very accurate with this laser. It also was very accurate with my Omni 5-watt version that you see right here. So I like the fact that they did their testing, they did their calibration, and they indicated to me the size or the height that I need in order to be able to get my right focal point. Let me show you where they'll put it. Now on the side of your laser, you're going to find a tape like this. It's basically going to tell you what your focal height is. And that's what this ruler is for. So when you grab your ruler, you see right here, basically you're putting it to the side, and wherever this line is that you see here as it marks with the ruler, it's basically telling you how high your laser needs to be, your lens needs to be from the material that you're going to engrave. And you'll notice that in my case, my focal height or focal length is 324 millimeters, but this is for my smaller lens, my 150. They also indicated in the manual that for my 70 millimeter lens, it was 190 millimeters, right? And you'll notice that when you go from the 324 to the 190, that there's a height difference, right? The smaller lens requires me to be closer. The higher lens or the larger lens requires me to be higher. Well, check why I have risers. The 300 millimeter lens requires me to have a 582 millimeter height. 582. So the tower that this laser comes with, this is what's known as a tower, only goes up to 500 millimeters. But I have to go up to 582 to make this work. That's why I have the risers that you see. The risers give me that additional height so that I can get to the focal length that I want. Now, you'll notice that I have this little jig here, this little part here. This right here is something that I created so that I can find my focal height very quickly, or at least, the focal point. So this basically uses this piece right here that magnetically attaches, and it has a chain. So this chain that you see here is 582 millimeters from this point, right? So when I did my focal point, I used my ruler to do my focal point, and then now all I do is I connect this to any material that I want engraved. You're gonna see how that works, and it makes things really easy. Now on the side of the laser, I created a small laser organizer for all my accessories. So for my glasses, I can just put it right here, just like that. My ruler, I also have a spot for the ruler right here, so I'll go ahead and try to get that in so that you can see how that works. So now my ruler goes in there, and I don't have to worry about having it in the way. And then the preview pane also goes here as well. So now I have everything nicely organized. And one of the things I noticed is that they have changed the actual width of the preview pane. The preview pane previously was much thinner. So for the Omni 10 watt, I noticed that this is much thicker. I kind of like the thicker version of it, and I'm able to put it here nicely, and everything is now tucked away. Now that I have this height, one of the things I did also is I took advantage of the fact that I have this height to bring my actual extraction hose inside of this area. Now, this area, not only is it going to be good to put your extraction hose if that's something that you want to do, but if you have a rotary, this becomes even a rotary bay. I like the fact that I can hide my rotary in here and take it off of the actual working area. So right now you'll notice that I have my hose. I just, fished it through this hole just because it's easier for me to be able to extract any of the material or the smoke of the material that I'm engraving. Now in front of the laser, you're going to find a very simple panel of controls. First of all, you have your power button, you have your up and down, so this is going to raise or lower the actual laser. You'll see when I press these how this works. And then you have an emergency stop button. This emergency stop button will stop the laser. All you have to do is tap it and it will stop it. When I turn this off at times, just to be on the safe side, I always keep this pushed in because there's a process to actually turning on the laser that you have to follow. At least my process is, I turn on my water chiller, I make sure that the water chiller is circulating, and then I turn on my laser. And I'm actually going to put a little note on the laser that says make sure the chiller is on. But if you do forget to turn on your chiller, it does have a safety mechanism where the laser will turn off, and you'll see it on the laser. I'm going to show you in a couple seconds to make sure you don't ruin your laser. Here's another view of this riser that I've put in and how I have the hose coming through. What you're seeing behind there is my extraction system because I have multiple lasers. I have a splitter that kind of splits things that shoots it outside of my window, but this will give you another view. Now on the side of the laser, you're going to notice that you have these two LEDs. The green means that you're good to go. This red indicates that something took place. If you forget to turn on your chiller, what will happen is once the laser reaches a temperature, a safety temperature, it's going to go from green to basically red, and it will not allow you to run until it returns back to the working temperature that's safe for the laser to be used without any damage. So just be aware that when you turn on your laser, you'll see this guy start flashing, and then it kind of starts up. And then if you're using it, it's in red, double check your chiller, because if you forgot to turn off your chiller or turn on your chiller, you'll basically run into the red LED indicating that it shut down the laser. The chiller has two functions. One is to turn it on, and then the second one is to actually cycle through the actual water. Sometimes, and it's happened to me, I turn it on and I forget to push the actual flow, and then the laser, I notice that it's in red, and it's because I haven't done that. Now the chiller that is used on the ComMarker Omni 10 watt, basically it's almost like a little mini refrigerator that is running water, and that water is chilled, and you notice that it has a temperature right here that it's being set at. You notice that it's running and there's a flow going on here. And it's important that this be running at all times because given the actual power of the laser, it needs to be cooled. Now remember, I did mention that this laser does have a safety mechanism that in the event that this fails or you forget to turn it on, the laser will stop functioning to prevent any kind of damage. But what you can do is you can see it working here. It is very quiet. It is not loud. I have seen at times if I am really putting that laser to work and I'm doing a lot of engraving, it is going to power up and push more fluid and get colder in order to be able to keep the temperature regulated on your, again, UV laser. But this is pretty simple. And I just have to write instructions. So if like Nova's going to use the laser, or even sometimes for me, because I have so many different lasers, I kind of forget which one has a chiller and which doesn't. To make sure you turn on the chiller first, make sure that the chiller is running, because that's important. You can have it on, but if you don't have it running and flowing, then you're not really doing anything with the chiller. I also then have connected to mine, which is kind of here on the side, I have a backup battery generator just to make sure that I don't have any interrupted power
events, right? And typically what I'll do is I'll turn off the laser first. I'll leave this running for a little bit just to make sure everything is cooled, and then I power this off last. Now I'm really big into jigs. Jigs give me predictability. They give me the ability to control where my engrave is going to be. And when you're engraving a lot of items, let's say 50, 25, 100 items, having all of your items engraved in the exact same spot gives you a level of professionalism that is important when you want to get repeat business. And having a jig like this is one of our jig systems, allows me to really easily take, let's say for example, if I'm going to work on these bottle openers, to put it in place really easily, get all of these engraved. I can switch them out if I just want to fill them up. If I have multiple trays, let's say for example, I'm doing 100 of these, I may not load these as I take them out. I may have 2 or 3 of these already preloaded, and as soon as I run my laser the first time and I get this done, all I do is I come in and I put my next, and I swap them out over and over again. And I have one for bottle stoppers, as you can see here. If you're working right now, there's a lot of wedding favors that are being requested because it's wedding season. What you could do is, for example, this is another popular item. So these are these bottle openers, right? And you can engrave the name of the bride and the groom or give them a special message. And again, once I'm done with this, I can just swap it out, or I could just, just put another one in place. And the cool thing about it is that every single time I move these out, they're always going to be in the same spot. And I can just switch from what I would call jig to jig. Now, let's say, for example, I want to be able to now do keychains, right? Slide this in place, change my focus point, and now I'm doing keychains. And that's kind of like the power of having, a jig system that allows you to go from product to product just like this. But now the point is that what do you get when you have a 300 millimeter lens? Well, you saw how many bottle stoppers I could engrave. That was, I think it was like almost like a 12 there. But notice, once I go with the larger lens, now I can engrave all these. This is crazy, right? The amount of engraving bottle stoppers that I can do now is significantly more. If I look at what we just saw, and I'll go ahead and bring that back on camera just so that you can see it. We talked about, hey, let's go ahead and engrave 3 wood keychains. This is what you can do with the 150 millimeter lens. This is the engravable area. Well, with the 300 millimeter lens, check this out. Now I can do this many. This is what we're talking about, and this is why the 10 watt version is my favorite, because of the lens support. So while doing 3 at a time is nice, being able to do 10 at a time is even better, especially as you're doing volume. Now, one of the most difficult materials to engrave is bamboo. Not because it's physically tough, but it's because it just doesn't engrave well. If you want to get a dark black engrave like this, it takes work. With this, it's effortless. I'm going to go ahead and put this piece of bamboo here, and then I'm going to use my focal chain that I just showed you. I'm going to go ahead and connect it, and you'll notice that the chain right here is pretty low, right? It means that I have to raise this head significantly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise it up, and you're going to see how that chain is going to pull out and how that chain works. So it's coming up, and you have a couple options. You could either use the power like I'm doing, or you could do it manually. I prefer to go with the power option, right? And what we're looking for is the tip of this chain to be in place, right? Now, keep in mind that I could use the red dots, right? So I'm looking for this to be just touching it. All right, that looks about right. So that's what I'm looking for, this. And maybe what I'll do is just go down just to there. And now it's hitting it. So that is, according to the calibration that ComMarker had set up for me, that is the focal length, right? And I'm going to go ahead and remove the chain. This just comes off just like this. And I can put it to the side, or what I could do is I can rotate it to the side. So if I have it here, I can just move it to the side like this, and it won't not be in my engravable area. I'm just going to move it over just for this piece here. If I was using my 70 millimeter lens, or not my 70, my 150, these 2 red dots, I'd use these red dots as my calibration point. So I'm leaving those for that lens. For this one, I'm using the chain. You'll notice that I can see my UV light here. What we're going to do is we're going to go into a preview. I'm going to launch a preview of the frame. And you'll notice that there's a little bit of it being right here. If I were to bring in the preview window, you'll notice how it really pops now. See that, how it comes out? That's what we're talking about. But again, let me show you the power of this type of laser. I'm going to turn on my extractor. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this frame over a little bit. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to put it on the other side, right here. Now this is really hard because typically to get a dark engrave with another laser requires some borax, some type of treatment of the wood to get the actual material to get dark. I'm going to show you how easy it is with the UV and how clean the engrave is. So I'm going to put on my glasses, got them right here, put them up, pulled it from my organizer, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit start, and this is going to be a real-time engrave so you can see the engraving process. So a couple things that you'll notice as it's doing this engrave is that this is what is referred to as a cold engrave. There's no real fire involved with this, even though you could generate fire, right? But in this case, this is a very cold engrave that's taking place. And what you'll notice is that there's no soot, there's no burn marks. It's going to be really clean. I can wipe it down with, let's say, vinegar or alcohol, but notice how dark that engrave is coming through. And this is going to be a very clean, high definition engrave. What I would consider, it's almost like doing an engrave in 4K because it's that clean. And again, this is a real-time engrave. So you'll notice it's doing this. I'll share my settings. They should be coming up on screen so that you could do this on bamboo as well. And I found that this does really well with a lot of different settings. I've done this on walnut. I've done this on one of my favorite wood types, which is called olive wood. It's a very, very hard wood, but the actual engrave came out beautiful. So you'll notice we're almost done. And look how dark that engrave is. This is what we're talking about, the beauty of having a UV laser. I'm going to turn off my extractor, right? And you notice very little smoke was generated. And now what we're going to do is we're going to bring this on camera. And I will tell you, what you're seeing right here is difficult, if not impossible to do without any kind of prep with another laser. Look how crisp and clean that is. If you're going to be working on wood, CO2 lasers are really, really good with wood. But if you're looking for a laser that's going to do it all, a UV laser is definitely the way to go. Isn't that gorgeous? Absolutely spectacular. Now, you heard me say that with a 300mm lens, you can engrave big. Well, this is big. If you look at this cutting board, this is typically what you can, the area, you're looking at a 4" by 4" area is the maximum area that you're going to be to engrave with a 150mm lens. When you have a 300mm lens, things change. Things change for the better. I want to show you my preview window or my preview little shield isn't big enough to show you how much it can be engraved. But let me put it right here so you can see my point. So from here to all the way over here, you see this? All the way up to up here, look at how high it's going, to all the way over here. That's how big this engravable area is because I have this large lens. So if you have to work with large pieces of wood, something like this, you're going to be able to do that with a 300mm lens. Now let me show you some of the other materials that we've engraved with the actual laser. We did this. This is acrylic. So this was a Midjourney generated image that we went ahead and just engraved on this black acrylic. I wanted to see how well, because look at this. This is really, really detailed. I'm going to go ahead and wipe this down so my fingerprints don't show up a little bit less. And then look at that again. That is, again, amazing quality coming from this laser. Just really, really nice. Well, I'm going to flip this over and look at that. Look at the quality that we have right here. All coming from this laser. And I love black acrylic because you can get nice features like this coming out. So really, really spectacular when it comes to the overall quality that you're going to get. We talked about wood. I just wanted to show you another wood piece. This is olive wood, and I would say olive wood is really, really hard to engrave. And I want to show you this. Notice again how dark this is, right? Really, really dark. And again, olive wood is very hard. This isn't a soft wood like you see with bamboo. The problem with bamboo is it burns so easily that you can destroy the wood very easily. But when it comes to olive wood, it is just hard. But look at again that dark finish that we were talking about, and that detail is just present here as well. And you can see that happening with this small guy here as well. So this again is a piece of olive wood. I wanted to do one more wood piece just to show you. And this wood piece, this is just standard plywood. I wanted to see how detailed I can get without really destroying it, because this is also softwood, very softwood. Take a look at this. And I did this again. Look at how clean this engrave is. And no burn marks. No burn marks at all. That is, again, a fantastic representation. You can't do this on a diode or another laser type. This is just beautiful. Well, we also then did slate, because slates are something that, you know, we all like as well. And you can notice here's a slate. Notice the variety of materials. We're going from one material type to the next material type, and all with the same laser. We were able to do this as well. Now, the bottle openers are a great product to sell, especially during wedding season, which we're right now in. And you can see this is the actual position that we have for the actual bottle openers itself. Now, you have a couple options that you could go through here, and I just want to show you this one right here. So not only can you see the actual frame as you saw a couple seconds ago, but you can actually get a sense of what the writing's going to look like when it engraves on this material. And as I go through this, like I can stop this, I can look at this, the subsequent one or the next one that's right there, see what that position is. I can look at each one of these to see how is the alignment working. I could then also look at them in, you know, that other format, which may be one that you're a little bit more used to, which is this one right here. So this is giving me a sense of where each one of these are. Now, we've already focused the actual laser, so it's focused. It's ready to go. I have my settings dialed in. So what we're going to do is we're just going to run these, and you'll see how quickly you're going to be able to generate profit. Check this out. This is what I'm talking about. Look how crisp that engraving is, how precise it is, and also the fact that it's nice and dark. You're not going to find that with another laser. This is a highly profitable product, something that you can sell on Etsy. And I can tell you, I have seen a lot of the Etsy products we've actually purchased, and I find that the vast majority are not using this technology. I find that in many cases, the engravings are not at this level of quality. And if you start producing quality like this, you're going to set yourself apart with a laser like this. Now, this product also does a fantastic job when it comes to marking products like PLA, PETG, and other plastics you may be creating. And it, again, will step up, again, how your products show up in the marketplace. You can see here, we're going to run a quick marking, and it's going to do a spectacular job of not burning the material, but still marking the material enough where you could turn this into something that you would sell, right? Check this out. This looks spectacular as well. Look how fast that was. Love how bright and white that is. Just took seconds to do. Now, the other item that we engraved, because you have to do metal. Well, yes, we did metal. Check this out right here. So this was done metal, and I just want you to see, again, the level of the black finish that you have here. Nothing was done. There was no marking spray, no special treatment. This was literally just engraving on the actual metal itself, and this is the quality that we were able to achieve. Fantastic. And this is another great gift that would be perfect for Father's Day. Now, UV lasers are known for being able to engrave glass, and I just want to show you the power of a 10-watt UV. This is what we're going to focus on before we actually look at the quality. What I want you to notice here is the curvature right here that I'm going through. So you'll notice here how the actual glass curves. So if I were to think about what is my flat surface, the flat surface of this shot glass is there. So you notice where my fingers are, I'm covering up the flat surfaces. That's what would be flat. What will happen with a traditional UV laser that is lower powered, as it starts getting to where my fingers are, it's going to get lighter and it's going to lose intensity. And that will require you to give it more passes, right? So this was a single pass, and I want you to see how good those sides look. So take a look at this. So again, on the curvature of the glass, look how nice that is. On the curvature of the glass, look how nice this is. Again, no special treatment, nothing done to this glass. What you see is how it came out. And all I have right here is this little black sleeve so that you can see how things pop up. There's nothing else done to this. And again, you can imagine this would be a highly profitable product that you could sell for Father's Day. or any event, right? This is great for weddings. This is great for birthdays, any kind of parties, retirement, and no special spray required. And you can see how premium, right? You can see that right there, how premium the actual Engrave is. Another spectacular Engrave. Now, the last product I want to show you is leather. Yes, we did leather, and you can do leather. Now, when you look at this leather, you're saying like, wow, how did they get the silver there? Well, this is a special koozie that basically has 2 layers on it. It has a black layer, and then underneath the layer, it actually has a silver layer. And what you're seeing right here is the laser exposing the silver area as it's going over it. And you can see, again, that quality there. When folks typically see this, they think that it's actually something that's printed on top of it. And when I tell them this is laser engraved, their minds are blown. Yeah, minds are blown.
So guys, that wraps up our review. See you in the next video.